Good afternoon, Phnom Penh. Greetings from Amsterdam. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Professor.
Hello, good to hear you. All right, let's turn the cameras on. Avoid the chat area. I don't see the chats. I'd like to see the faces, smiles, nice hair. And good afternoon. How are you? Fine. And you? As consultants, we need to communicate. Let's see if cameras are turning on. I'm still waiting. You know the drill. Still many people, no cameras. Did they join and walk away? I don't hope so. Yes, there are real people in my class. I love it. So you have finalized your ECG analysis. It must feel good now. Just before the class, I checked the survey. Now we have 90 plus respondents, which is less than half that I was hoping. If you haven't done so, please find people from your industries and try to involve them in the survey. That will be really helpful, because I will write an article about that. I will include your findings and how people perceive in the country. That's why we like to involve people from the industries. So once again, please find relevant people, send the link, or in case you believe they will not do it, sit them next to them and spend just 2 minutes to fill the survey by explaining it. Results I shared here when it was 75. And when I checked the 90 responses, they are similar. The good thing about having a survey and checking multiple people is actually seeing the picture from different eyes. And if I see that there are not so many differences between 75 and 90, that means, well, this level is more or less what people expect. So that is, I don't know whether it's a good news or bad news. This is how people see. And if I cross-check it, with the basically, it looks logic to me. For example, the participants have basic level knowledge, including you, and some of them are fairly knowledgeable, because I also send the survey to some experts within my network, and you also involve some expert people. The second question was whether companies are overstating their findings. They say yes, 60% moderately, even maybe 20% says, well, strongly indicating. So that is an evidence that our industry heat map will be less positive than your heat maps, which are more greenish, more positive, because you are looking at the company information. So I can conclude that our findings are logical. Looking at the ESG area, you see these three bars. Environmental area is more reddish. So people believe, perception is environmental issues are really poor. Half of the people think poor, even another maybe 10%, 15% thinks it is very poor. And social areas slightly better, with only half of, less than half think it is poor. And generally, this response group thinks that social company governance is fair mostly. Looking at the industries on the vertical bars, we see clearly that, construction and agriculture is also transportation is getting the more poor evaluations. As you can also see, visually, when you see a construction happening, is a lot is happening in Cambodia. Conditions are there not very optimistic compared to bank offices, schools, and hotels and cafes. It's quite logic, right? So as part of the academic research, what we like to understand whether there are a few things that are actually unusual or not logic. Because it would be easy to say, in Cambodia, service industry like finance, education, tourism, retail are doing fine, whereas the manufacturing or production industry like textile, transportation, agriculture, construction are doing poorly. And it would make sense because that is the truth for worldwide. And our findings, our averages exactly confirms that. So thank you very much for your the efforts. Please keep going for your efforts, because I'd like to really exceed 100. Probably it will be happening next week or so. But your input is important. But if you look at here, imagine you are in textile industry, you see that this is more reddish than what you see on the website. And I would say it's normal. So try to make your analysis as objective as possible based on what you see in your findings. And that will be on your Excel sheets. I think before next week, so I'll give you another couple of days to finalize your Excel sheet. So I will ask you to upload your analysis, your heat maps, and all company analysis with the rationale to the classroom environment, so that I could cross-check, also keep it as an evidence of your hard work. Any questions so far regarding your Excel's findings, heat maps, our survey? Okay, I assume you are following the logic what I'm trying to do, finding the general perceptions versus findings about the company information. And you have seen 2 companies at least, but altogether we have looked 80 companies information about ESG. And today we'll discuss about their governance area. I'm very curious. And before we start that, I'd like to give some information about the upcoming lecture on the 28th. So you have now 2 weeks to digest the information and make actually 2 nice summary slides based on what you have as a synthesis of your findings. And that will be our lecture 9. And then I was saying we need to make a decision about the final lecture. So do you have anything first week of June, which is very important that we shouldn't organize this lecture, last lecture? Exams, when exams will start for this term?
It starts June.
It starts when?
It starts on June, Professor.
But June 1st of June 10, June 7?
For us, it starts since June 4. June 4 is the CBE exam for ACCA.
Okay, June 4. Okay, and when is your last exam?
The last exam is actually June 30, IFRS, June 30.
Oh, so we can't wait actually until July for the last lecture, right? There will be far too, you will forget everything in that 5-6 weeks. Let's say, would that be an idea? That our next lecture is next week, then we finish at 28th of May, then we finalize everything before June. Would that work for you? Because July is not an option, and June 4 or 11 will be difficult for everyone. We can do next Thursday, the upcoming lecture. And maybe the following Thursday, the final lecture. Then it will be 30th. You don't need much preparations. You just need to summarize information and polish the presentations in 2 weeks' time. Who has a problem with that planning? Let's say 2 more Thursdays. So you have 1 week and 1 week. So Thursday the 20th, 30th, and also Thursday the 23rd. Any exams, any conflicting classes, any national days?
Hello, sir. Could you hear me?
Barely, yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask for the final lecture, is it the final presentation that we have to do each team?
Final presentations, indeed. Each team will have 10 minutes, but based on what you already have.
Okay, thank you, sir, thank you.
So there are no new information required. It's only, I will explain the next lecture, actually making synthesis. And then final presentation is actually, polishing your documents. No new information, but preparing for the presentation. Again, you will need a couple of hours preparation, but not more than, no new information. But my question was whether you have something specific on the 23rd and 30th of May, like an exam, or like a national day, like a conflicting class for the majority of you. Because my intention is to finish it before the exam. Okay, you have another hour to think about. Please check your agenda and let's see what you have prepared for the upcoming lecture. And you could visualize whether or not you can make it. Right. For next lecture, so you need to deliver actually these 2 pages. And these 2 pages are actually summary of your last 3 lectures. You know, today you will explain your governance page. That page will be summarized in this box until next week. So it's actually not a work, but, you know, sit together and thinking about, okay, we have looked everything. This is our 1-page summary. What is the key findings from this page? So again, 3-4 bullet points. So these are the synthesis pages. You already have social page, right? You already have environment page. So I divided, these are the current state pages. Next is what is the future state and recommendations. And that will be based on your industry best practices pages. You already have this, but for this page, you need to look at your industry best practices page. You already have, and think about your industry once again. Also, you know the full picture. Then you start developing 3 to 4 recommendations for this industry. 3 to 4 environment, 3, 4 for social, 3, 4 governance. So that is for the next week. I guess this is not a difficult task, but it requires some logical thinking, some teamwork, and making the right synthesis. I think you hear me saying a few times synthesis rather than summaries, right? It brings the small learning moments. I have 2 4-minute video that you could look afterwards. You have the handout, by the way, already uploaded. Synthesis is slightly different than summarizing. Summarizing gives the summary of information, whereas synthesis actually looking at the summary information and developing something more than that summary. It becomes a new information rather than combination of everything. So you will read your summary pages, and then you will come up with an idea of with a sentence, with a conclusion that can be slightly different than the summary of all information. But your synthesis will be more compelling, more informative, and more interesting to read. I know it's a little bit vague and abstract. Try to make those synthesis, analysis, summarization talk within the team. So that is actually very crucial towards the end. I also have this 4-minute video, similar things, but it would be interesting. As you can already see, it's beyond the summary. In the synthesis, you look at multiple sources, multiple best practices, multiple conclusions, and then you say, okay, based on that, we are stating this, we are recommending this. Is it a slightly clear to you what you need to do in your synthesis? Well, at least you will try. And that's why we have next week, we'll see the synthesis pages so that I could give some feedback whether your synthesis pages are suitable for the final presentations. Final presentations will be only polishing your existing slide deck. Maybe you will only adjust the slide titles. That is the only homework for the final lecture. But 1 week will be more than sufficient. So next week, as we discussed, next week, Thursday, the 23rd, we'll discuss your 2 pages. And then when we have the feedback, you have another week to create your 18 pages, which you already were developing. You have the introductory page, industry case facts and figures, the PESTEL, the 5 forces already there. And you have 3 specific pages about ESG, right? It's already here. And you will have these new 2 pages. And if you add up everything, actually it will make your final presentation. But then for final presentation, you have to align them. You have to clear the typos and the font types. And especially I will ask you to focus on the slide title. So I believe it's doable. And until the end of the lecture, please let me know whether when 23 and 30 it is working well, or if not, tell me why, so that we can search for another at the moment. Any questions regarding the upcoming deliverables? Okay. All right, then I would say let's start seeing our industries. I'd like to start with theme number 1, construction. That's easy. Try to be timely. We have an hour to finish, so less than 10 minutes we have. Let's see how construction in the industry is doing in the governance area. I will stop sharing. And there was a report I saw about construction and sustainable analysis. I'm glad you found these resources.
Greeting, Professor.
Hello.
So should I start the presentation now, or you have any questions?
Yes, why not?
Okay. So my name is Lee Pohi, and I'm from Team 1 Construction Industry. Today, I am responsible for the governance section from the ESG analysis. First of all, from the industry observation, in the governance area, we give it a poor. So let us start with the business ethic. The average score is 3.1, which is neutral. Companies in this field are attempting to be sustainable development, which will ensure long-term success for the company. For example, Wattanac got a Gold LED award for Wattanac Capital in 2016, and OCIC worked on the Green Oasis in Copec while continuing implementing a CSR campaign with the corporation. Moving on to the regulatory compliance has an average score of 2.9. In terms of complying with zoning restriction, permits, and license, we discovered that only half of the companies demonstrate that they have committed to doing so before beginning any building project. In terms of zoning restrictions, we discovered that OCIC once had an issue with local entity which the compensate the impacted, such as adhering to building standards and attempting to reduce pollution from construction activities, even though they are not doing well and require more commitment and understanding. Let us now look forward to transparency, which has an average score of 2.6. In this area, there are very few yearly reports or ESG reports available to the public. Companies rarely communicate their progress on building projects, including the investment amount, working conditions, and challenges encountered during progression. Furthermore, the public is rarely given an opportunity to complain or oppose. According to our analysis, some companies have become involved in scandals or face public outrage. However, all of the links and news about this concern are either missing or have been removed. We consider that the company is not yet honest and transparent enough to deal with the problem or complaint from the public. We also have some best practices for each area. The first is business ethics. The company should adhere to the Green Building Standard, which governs building design, construction, and operation to encourage energy efficiency, resource conservation, and reduce environmental impact. Also, the company should pay close attention to corruption and equality inside the organization. The second is ensure regulatory compliance. In the sector, the corporation must adhere to the fair labor law requirement while also ensuring that each project is approved by being transparent with the government and the community. Last but not least, transparency is essential in all businesses and industry. The company should disclose ESG reports to the public or stakeholders to ensure that they are aware of the company ESG practices. The organization should demonstrate the action of its aim or mission, which is primarily focused on sustainability and is ESG compliant, rather than simply stating it and doing nothing to achieve it. So that's all for our presentation.
Very well prepared. Thank you very much. You see, you already have this page. For next week, you are going to synthesize on left side to fill one box in one page. You remember the synthesis pages, right? One page is divided by ESG. So on the last part of the ESG, you will synthesize left side. And then for recommendations, you will look at the worldwide best practices and making a couple of recommendations to construction industry for the combining companies. So as you see, you already have the groundwork based on what you have been observing. So I'm curious how things will be developed towards recommendation. Hopefully your recommendations will be adapted in the industry someday based on your our event. Maybe in July, we will have an event that you could present to a larger audience that will be real presentation. Until so far, we are on the right direction, I see. Well done, construction industry. Let's move to education.
Hello, Professor. Technical issue. So sorry, wait a bit.
Yeah. Are you going to continue or shall we move to the next industry?
I can
Okay, go ahead.
I can do it now, Professor. Do you hear me, Professor?
I can.
So okay. So for business act sorry for wait a minute, Professor. I have problem with it. I have problem with this.
Guys, if you cannot do it, maybe you can do it later.
Then I can speak now. So for the governance in education industry, governance in education industry, it is fairly neutral because
So there is an echo.
due to our observation, we can do that most of them.
There is an echo, so maybe you need to shut the computer voice down.
Yeah, okay. But
Set the volume of your computer down.
So can you hear me clearly now, Professor?
Now
Okay.
this the better.
Okay, so for governance in education industry in Cambodia is neutral based on our observation from the 10 university. We can see that most of them are practice seeing in a good business ethic by providing all students with equal opportunity to maintain high ethical standards in research, teaching, and administrative practice. And for the regulatory compliance, the higher education sector in Cambodia use accreditation and license in combination to enforce regulatory compliance that is issued by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport, while the accreditation committee of Cambodia, ACC, verify that quality criteria are followed. and especially for university offering bachelor degree or higher. Despite of this framework, concern is still exists because about the effectiveness of regulation in promoting consistent quality across the rapidly growing number of institutions. And for the transparency, Cambodia higher education transparent their information to higher education by providing through the website and report. However, some universities still lack of transparency, such as their release of information that not timely and insufficient to meet the needs of the user, which might
Is that the reason that you rate as fair, neutral, and not good? Because if I look at ethics, compliance, it looks good.
yeah.
And you're saying some publications are not timely. Is that the reason you give a fair, neutral? If I look at your screenshot, everything is on greenish. Here, if I see fair, neutral, it's like too low. Maybe it should be good. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
just
Professor.
asking.
We will looking at it again.
Yes, I'm not saying make it green, but
Yeah.
look as a team and make a suitable color there, okay?
Yes, Professor. So could I continue on now? So for the lack of transparency due to it can due to limited of resource and the resource that I refer to here is the lack of expert or IT or budget to create and maintain comprehensive website or publish detailed report. And we also provide some best practice and first best practice we choose from Singapore Management University, and according to our research, we see that the university have worked hard to include social responsibility and ethics into the curriculum. And as part of undergrad and graduate program, the university also provide a special model and course on business ethics and corporation social responsibility. And moving on to seeing how university from China, the university is prioritize regulatory compliance in every aspect of activity, including research, project, and academic program. It ensures complying with standard for academic programs, student admission, faculty appointment, research funding, property right, and international collaboration. And last one is from Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. This university is one of the best universities that have really great practice on transparency of their information. As I went to their website, I could see that the most information that is related to the university is easily found, such as their upcoming event and specific schedule, and they also provide information related to the academic program that up to date, as well as the close information that is necessary to and relevant to the reader for both internal and external stakeholder. So now that's all for the governance analysis in education, higher education industry. Thank you.
Okay, very nice, very nice. I see that education industry is doing well. It is less polluting, okayish, social, and also or maybe good governance because they are regulated and there are reports, etc. Maybe as a team, you could have a look about international accreditations. How many universities have international accreditations? COMET is one of them, right?
Yes, Professor.
Yeah, and try to understand. Maybe you can recommend this industry to have to obtain international accreditations.
Yes,
Since
Professor.
only a few universities have it, and you are privileged students to be in a university that is international accreditation. Maybe that is maybe a recommendation for the others as well. Well prepared. And I see that teams are getting really comfortable in making the slides or explaining the slides. So I see huge improvement in all teams, all presentations. So I'm happy that your development is happening. So thank you very much for your hard work. I see that you are really, it's rewarding to see your progress so far. But next 2 weeks will be really the crucial before the exam. So let's spend a couple of hours to make our presentations almost ready to present others. So that would be the next challenge. Good job, GFT guys.
Yeah, I'm here, Professor.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Okay, so let's start. Good evening, Professor, and hello everyone once again. Because today I would like to discuss on ESG analysis in the garment and textile industry.
Oh, I thought it was XXXX industry.
Sorry, it's garment industry.
Okay.
So there are some industry best practice, but there are also some areas where improvement is needed. So today's let's focus on the governance part, and we can see that the industry governance practice are fair and neutral if we compare them to other industry. So based on our evaluation on ESG heat map, the average score for business ethic is 2.65, which is considered average. We can say that the garment industry in Cambodia is ethically complex. This suggests that some companies prioritize ethical practice, but others do not. So they may struggle with low wage, poor working conditions, and labor right violations. And an example of the best practice of this is Indonesia collaboration platform to improve business standard, which is called the multi-stakeholder collaborations. So moreover, the average regulatory compliance score is 2.7, again indicating an average performance. While some company follows law and ethical practice, others struggle with compliance. So certifications like RAPS and BSCIs can help ensure the companies meet social and environmental standard. For this one, the world best practice are French AGS, wage guarantee schemes, ensuring proper payment wage. And another one is in Sweden and Japan, they offer tax incentive to company meeting ESG criteria to encourage sustainable practice. And the last one is in Hong Kong, they establish independent oversight body. Furthermore, the biggest concern in the governance in garment industry is the transparency. With an average score of only 2.33, many companies remain tight-lipped about their operations. This lack of openness makes it hard to trust their sustainability claim. This means that the industry overall is not very transparent about its ESG practice. Some companies provide detailed information, but others are selective about what they disclose. So there is a need for greater transparency to build trust with stakeholders. And the example of the best practice is in the US. the US regulations require companies to disclose ESG practice in their annual report. Thank you, Professor. That's all.
Very well explained. I also like that you talk about the topic and then you talk immediately after best practices rather than reading everything differently. So that's a good one. Maybe others can also follow this logic rather than first talking about the observations, then talk about best practices. You can combine them. Because we hear what's happening and what is best practices. This is the actually best practice. What I see, what I hear, your stories from industry observations are less than neutral. It's difficult to say maybe poor, but they are not fair, right?
Yes, Professor. I would like to say it's between neutrals and poor.
Poor.
But
yes.
the score is really close to neutral, so that's why we put fair or neutral.
Yeah, this is something that I need to think about. Well, you can also use, two colors in the same box. Dividing it, make it half, make it, it has both fair elements, but also poor elements, right?
Yes, Professor. I might consider with my team to put both.
Yes. Once
so
again, it will be in the obviously you will put it in the synthesis pages. For next week you will have 2 pages, so you need to find the right coloring. And I'm just thinking loudly now, sometimes you need to put two colors.
Yes, Professor.
It used to be the case, people used to give for all 3 areas a color box. Like when you say average score 265, they would make it like fair neutral, but transparency is page orange. So it could have even 3 boxes have 3 different colors, and in total they could have also some color variations. So I leave it up to team how to tackle with that, because maybe your suggestion, maybe your solutions will be better than what I might suggest now. So something to think about in team discussion and next week's deliverables. Can we agree on that?
Yes, Professor.
Perfect. Again, very well prepared slide deck and explanations. I see you from the beginning. This team is doing well done. My compliments to the team. Let's see what tourism industry will do for us.
Hello, Professor.
Hello.
My name is Ling Tu, and I'm from Team Tourism, and I'll be presenting our finding for the governance and ESG for hotel industry. So from what we have gathered, the average business ethics of the 10 accommodation providers are 4.0, and most of the hotels have their own code of conduct that contains high ethical standards that they uphold principle of integrity, fairness, and accountability. Hotel like Memor Palace Resort and Spa even go all the way by incorporating and promoting local culture elements, while in Angkor Village Hotel, they have incorporated local architecture into their design and opened a library dedicated to Khmer literature, which is considered to be one of the biggest in the country. While in the worldwide practice, The global hotel industry, they usually emphasize on the business ethic through corporate governance, employee welfare, environment sustainability, responsible procurement, guest experience, and community engagement. While leading chains have adopted ethical framework, the level of implementation varies by region and operator, depending on the regulation, norms, and culture. Upholding high ethical standard is critical for hotel to build trust, manage risk, and drive sustainable development. Next, for regulatory compliance, it has an average score of 3.4, and regulatory compliance is a fundamental aspect ensuring the hotel operate in a lawful, transparent, and social responsible manner. Several of the hotels ensure comprehensive regulatory compliance to maintain trust of their the trust of their stakeholders and safeguard the interests of their guests and as well as their employee. Additionally, industry leader like Hyatt and Marriott Hotel, they have proactive measure to enhance their cybersecurity and combat human trafficking as well, which demonstrate a broader commitment to responsible and ethical business practices. Hotel like Navutu also provides equal employment opportunity and has a good regulation in place related to waste management, water usage, and more. While in the worldwide practice, regulatory compliance is a top priority for hotels globally as they navigate the complex web of laws and standards governing their operation. And at the core, hotel must comply with labor regulations, ensuring fair employment practices, proper wages, and safe working conditions for the employee. This ensures adhering to minimum wage laws, overtime requirement, and anti-discrimination policy as well. And lastly, we have transparency with an average score of 4.1, which is the highest. We noticed that those 10 hotels share a common commitment to transparency as a key business practice. They prioritize open communication and disclosure about their sustainable effort and community engagement and initiative and overall operation practices as they recognize that transparency builds trust with the stakeholders. Hotels like the Onra Hotel, which is one of the hotels that we have interviewed, mentioned that they are transparent and if asked, they are willing to answer any question that the customer have related to the hotel. Industry leader, again, like Hyatt and Marriott, they have further elevated transparency through comprehensive sustainability reporting, human rights commitment, and collaborative initiative like the Hospitality Alliance for Responsible Procurement. And in the worldwide practice, transparency has emerged as a defining characteristic of the global hotel industry, with establishment worldwide embracing open communications and disclosure as a core business practice. Hotels across regions recognize the value of transparency in building trust with their stakeholders and leading hotel brands. They share information about their sustainability initiative, environmental impact, community engagement, and abiding by the ethical standard. This transparency extends the areas such as carbon footprint reduction, waste management, support for local economies, and human rights policies. Thank you, CM.
All right, I will have the same questions. Looking at your explanations, looking at your figures, numbers for 3.4, 4.1, and looking at the heat map, all greenish, and you end up with fair and neutral. I believe it is, you didn't change it because if you analyze it, it would have been a green, right? Look at your page now. Go back to your page. I believe these are correct, but you see the fair neutral box next to industry observations. Do you think it should be good or still stay as fair and neutral? Because in the previous team, they had average like 2.3 and they were saying fair neutral. Now you're saying 4.1, still fair and neutral. In your case, it should be better than fair and neutral.
Yeah, we will change it to good because at first we believe that's very neutral since some of them are still like in the yellow and kind of orange tone. So we just settle with neutral and fair instead. But maybe later on we'll change to good.
In my opinion, it should be on the greenish side. Once again, it's okay to have, as we speak, as I also realize, sometimes you have two colors in the same box, indicating it has neutral but good elements, and for the previous team, indicating that it has poor and fair elements. So find a way, let's see which one works, but you understand my point, right? It is not clearly reflecting your findings. All right, and I believe you also have enough materials for both your synthesis pages and your recommendations. And once again, to all teams, synthesis is slightly different than summarizing. And so that is actually your learning goal / your homework. When you can synthesize going beyond the summarization, your documents, your exam papers, your presentations will stand out. So this is what we are exercising here. Because you are already top students, if you can also adapt the synthesis mechanism, which you will see the 2 times 4 minutes video and exercise it, I promise it will really be helpful for next of your student life and beyond. Also, you will use that skill in your regular working life. So please pay attention to the skills of synthesis, and you'll spend 8 minutes with watching video, maybe 80 minutes to make the synthesis, but it will be really helpful. So go for that. So thank you once again, tourism industry. We see that things are going well. Also, when we see the my survey results, people are also seeing in the similar way, fair plus level and good level. Good job. Let's see what is happening in finance. Finance is the most green area according to survey, and I think also, wow, these guys are doing excellent. Yeah, because they must publish this stuff in many areas.
Can you hear me clearly, Professor?
Very clearly, sir.
So good evening, Professor. My name is Pradyut from the finance team, and today I'm going to present on findings regarding the governance in the finance industry. Looking at global best practices in governance, we can see that the most leading banks have strict exclusion policies on environmentally damaging projects such as fossil fuels or weapons. In Cambodia, Akleda Bank, for example, have adopted this policy which prohibits them from providing credit to projects that may harm the environment. Furthermore, financial institutions in Cambodia follow fair and reasonable business practices while prioritizing consumer protection. Also, most businesses prioritize CSR activities such as donations, and some also participate in ethical investment practices such as government projects. In terms of regulatory compliance, some international institutions have implemented a robust KYC and anti-money laundering program to identify and mitigate ESG risk. It also ensures due diligence to consumer from high-risk sector, ensuring compliance with the regulations. Some banks even establish a dedicated committee for ESG practices, composed of directors with relevant experience to oversee the bank's ESG policies and hold management accountable for meeting set goals. In Cambodia, financial institutions prioritize regulatory compliance by implementing internal control frameworks issued by the FBC, such as whistleblowing channels and consumer protection principle, particularly for insurance company. They really value customer privacy and data protection. Finally, for transparency, we can see similarities between global best practices and Cambodian practices. Internationally, financial institutions have published a comprehensive annual ESG reports that includes detailed information on sustainability goals, as well as real-world examples of how they incorporate ESG practices into their daily operation. This is almost identical to Cambodian companies within the finance sector, which maintain transparency by disclosing annual reports. These reports include information on financial performance, corporate governance, CSR activities, and core values, etc. However, there are some limitations as only a few organizations, particularly and LOLC Cambodia, who have dedicated web pages and section in their annual reports for ESG. And that's it for our presentation, Professor.
Okay. All positive, all positive. Also, survey results are indicating that way. Based on your analysis, which bank is doing great in this area?
From our research, Cleda is the best, Professor.
Yeah, because they also have very lengthy report about that, right?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, for team discussion, do you think they are slightly or moderately overstating what they are doing? So do you genuinely believe what they are writing is 100% true?
We think to some extent, maybe there is some overestimation.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
much.
So then that's why I'm saying, talk to people in banking industry, even talk to people from Atleda. There are hundreds of the workers there, and talk about your findings. If you can find the opportunity of, let them fill the survey and let's see what they are saying.
Yes, Professor.
And this is also for your personal development, going to become an auditor, a consultant. Because as auditors, our task is not accepting everything at the face value. You know, collect the information, check the logical flow and accuracy, and then make a sanity check, logical check, whether this is true in real life. So it's a little bit investigation, a little bit consulting, a little bit research. But since you are finding all good information, which is mostly true, so next 2 weeks, and that you could synthesize, you can include that information into synthesis, like saying that, wow, although any documentation we find great, but you know, when we talk to a few people in banking, these are not as green as stated. I don't expect things will be very poor, but still, if you can pinpoint those areas, and that will make your team standing a little bit above, well, in any case. And this feedback is true to everyone, every team. Maybe in construction you say, wow, every indication is bad, but there are good examples. Because this is you also things that you have seen already. So for next week deliverables, try to combine everything, what you have seen, what you heard, what you get as a feedback, what people say. So connect a few information together, including what you have written in the last couple of weeks, and then make a logical combination rather than copy, paste, and make it shorter sentences. That's not even summary. So that is really important learning moment. So if you do it correctly in a couple of hours, it will help you to actually to be introduced to that skill set. once again, I will repeat it like zillion times the next couple of weeks. The synthesis is the most important part that we are now reaching out. Because so far you have done all the analysis, you looked at information, you summarized here your findings. Brilliant, you can do it because you are good students. But what we want is that you go beyond the student skills and as early as possible. So I'd like to see your synthesis in the next week, both on observations, on best practices. Can we agree on that?
Yes, Professor.
Yes. Good. Let's see what is going on in agriculture area.
Can energy team do next?
Yes, why not? Go ahead.
Mark, what can you share? Press share. Oh, sorry, slideshow. Okay, good evening, Professor, and hello everyone. And we are from Energy Industry. First, we will talk about the industry overall in Cambodia. We will talk about business ethics first. As we can see from our research, we can see that most of the company amongst the 10 companies have different approach when it comes to their business ethics. Like some they prioritize like legal compliance and transparency. For example, we have Siemens Cambodia. They are very strict when it comes to the ethical standard, and the other like BOK corporations Cambodia, we can see that they have been striving really hard as well, but we personally think that they need some improvement when it comes to their internal monitorings. And overall, all those 10 companies has all strive for the integrity and fairness, but still we still think that things can be improved, like if they put more effort and when it comes to the ethical practice. And moving on, we will talk about like the regulatory compliance. Like the companies prioritize regulatory compliance, ensuring adherence to local and international standard. For example, PTT, they manage and practice the operations, ensuring legal requirements and industrial standard. And for some reason, we can still see that there are some controversy that was going on that haven't been cleared out. So we put it only 3.39 because if they have like share more when it comes to their regulatory compliance, it would have been better. And next, we'll talk about their transparencies. The company in those 10 companies prioritize transparencies, like they mostly share their financial report and the other relevant report online public. For example, PTT, they share their financial report. You can find it in their official page, and they also very open when it comes to communication about operations, sustainability effort, and they also excel. They also excel when it comes to sharing about their CSR operations as well. But we still think that some companies may need some improvement. And next up, we will move on to the worldwide best practice. We will talk about business ethics. For example, Anchor Solutions, which located in Norway, their business integrity were focused on anti-corruptions, like the country reach and corporate responsibility. For example, their company has something which they call Anchor Solution, whistleblowing channel and ethic helpline, where the customer can share their problems that they have faced during their experience with the company, so they can make the improvement as well. And moreover, NDP, which is like a very international organizations, and their partner have pledged to provide clean and affordable energy for 5 million and more people by 2025, which is a really good example for many companies and organizations. And first, we talk about regulatory compliance. Like NDP also focuses on developing and supporting legal and regulatory framework that promote renewable energy, encourage private investment, support new clean energy innovations, and foster innovation business model for energy sectors. And last but not least, we have transparency. Like Anchor Solution publicly shared their annual report as like the same as the company in Cambodia as well, like PTT, report on their official websites and other relevant information on their official website as well. And this is the end of our energy industry.
Okay, well prepared, and I see that you have multiple examples to make a judgment. Let's say in business ethics here. You mentioned Siemens, like VRK, etc. But what I see on worldwide best practices, you mainly look at the anchor solutions. That's only one. So if I may give one suggestion for this team, have multiple examples to prove your points. That would have been more convincing. You know, you could say in Norway, this is this way. In Thailand, this is that way. In US, this is that way. Also, it would be interesting, once again, this feedback to all of you. You know, best practices in Europe maybe are not directly suitable for Asia. So it's nice to have the best practice Europe. Also, an Asian example, even maybe an example best practices in Cambodia would have been the perfect best practice examples. So when developing your best practices pages for the next week, take a note, please. Your best practice recommendation should include examples from the world, from the region, and maybe from Cambodia, if possible. So take into consideration developing your recommendations based on worldwide best practices. I will repeat. Look at the best in the world, some examples in the region, and some examples in Cambodia. Because we observe our industries, and I hope we also find some best practices within the companies that we have seen, right? Once again, this is to feedback to all teams. I will also take my own notes, best practices, world, region, and Cambodia. Because then you will look at your information from a different perspective suddenly. And that is actually helping you to develop your synthesis skills, because then you will not copy and paste, but you will start thinking, okay, we have this information here, best practice, but best practice also in Cambodia. We have also seen some in Indonesia. Let's have a recommendation combining these three. Is it getting more clear every time I explain things with different words? Good. And delete this box before submitting. Do you see the gray sentence box underneath of your presentation? So when you finish the slide, you can delete that box towards the final version. And I know people forget deleting that. That's why I add this delete sentence. Cool. Who's next? Retail or agriculture?
Professor, agriculture will go next.
Let's go, agriculture.
First, what do you know?
It's a poor industry. I know.
Yes.
But in a way, the Cambodia is an agricultural country, right?
Yes, Professor. So
So
we're
this is,
focusing on the rice, specifically in the agriculture industry.
yeah. You see, people will really look at your presentations with very different eyes because they know what's going on in agriculture, and they see construction. Although there are not so much information available, unlike finance team, they are lucky. The reporting is there, publication is there, but I admire your efforts extra because it's a difficult industry.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, what do you have for us for this week?
So for the business ethic, as you can see, our industry has scored a 3.1 out of 5, which is not a so bad score. But the thing is, there's the three big main challenge in this area because first of all, we have a very limited access to the report, and the report is not access to the public at all, which can cause a very hindsight. And also another thing is that there is also a corruptions and policy implementations, and this corruption has undermined the policy implementation, which lead to a non-compliant with the regulations by farmer. And the thing, one more thing is that there's an inefficient licensing system, which means that the current licensing system that we have for exporting has harmer rather than encouraging trade, which means the rice export. And this has eliminate any unnecessary export license that can boost export, as well as stabilizing the price and benefit the farmer in return. But this instead has not benefited the farmer, they have harmed them instead. And as for the regulatory compliance in this agriculture, it has indicating a gap despite the effort that has been made by the Ministry of Agriculture and Fishery. And another thing is that if we were to strengthen this compliance, which it will has benefit it in another way. Professor, can you hear me clearly? Because I don't think like there's some audio issue
I
over
can
here.
hear you.
Okay,
I
Professor.
can hear you.
Yes. So now that I move on to the transparency, as our industry, transparency is below average, scoring only a 2.2. This lack of transparency has raised concern about the sustainability, products, and traceability. And when we do the research, we have conducted a research about 10 companies, but those 10 companies that we did our research on, even though they are under a very big group here in Cambodia, there's lack of information regarding the sustainability and the product traceability. And also there's no available report on the sales and also the track and also the export and import of the company itself. Basically, we have no information that is accessible to us about that impact. About
Even
the
that
transparency.
finding is very compelling, right? Even what you say now is already a very important finding.
Yes, Professor.
So there is something going on, and you guys must address that in a way that very politically that people start thinking about it.
Yes, Professor. And besides that, since Facebook in Cambodia is a very big thing, like it is a social media platform for each and everyone. But the thing is, since we conducted a research on those 10 big companies of here in Cambodia, we basically found no information about them at all, even though like the company itself has their own website and such, but no information is available there on their Facebook page for us to conduct a research. So this means that there's some kind of shady stuff that is going on, since we have no access to any kind of like no kind of information among them. And this has made our research about regarding the transparency and the regulatory compliance very hard to gather in information. So that's why we look at the worldwide best practice of India, which is the Land and Governance Assessment Framework. According to our research, this framework itself has assessed the land governance across the various dimensions, and it's including land use planning, management, taxation, and stuff like that. But in Cambodia itself, we did not have that kind of framework, so it is very hard for the farmer to have a clear view of like how they can use their land to adopt the modern farming that is happening in the other world and across the globe as well, such as places like India. And further than that, Ethiopia, they have adopted some kind of similar framework to India, and this has made them achieve such a great result in the rural land registrations, and it has also recognized the women land right as well. And we also add one more thing, which is the principle of transparency in scholarly publishing. As we may heard from me earlier, there's a very lack of transparency here in Cambodia regarding the agriculture sector. But this framework that we are talking about has set a standard for transparency in scholarly publications. So if Cambodia were to adopt this kind of model or framework, agriculture industry as a whole will have a much more open access, which can also provide the transparency principle for us as students to gather more information and as well as to learn more about the industry itself, providing insight and also input. That's all from our team.
Thank you very much. Very well done. As I mentioned, this industry needs some attention. Hopefully, your recommendations will help people start thinking about it. Great job. Let's move to retail. You can mute now, Leon. You can mute. Yes.
Greeting Professor and everyone. I'm from Retail Group.
Whatever. Sai complete
In the retail industry.
Sai complete
EdTech, it has an average score of 3.4. As from what we have seen, Aeon is quite committed to corporate product when compared to nearby store. The price of its product appears to be reasonable. Workers are treated fairly based on what is evident from their working condition. To guarantee an even more sustainable operation, they also advocate for ESG in their company. And besides Aeon, other companies also show committed to business ethics in their dealing with customers and other stakeholders. However, we also have seen some companies have no intention to apply ESG practice or follow the sustainability vision, which we suggest for improvement in these areas. Moving on to the regulatory compliance, which have an average score of 3.4. As we all know, Cambodia is a country who export exceed import, so the government has regulation to protect consumer rights, including law on product safety, labeling, and fair trade practice. Macro supermarkets used to face fines due to violation of health and safety regulation, but promptly addressed and rectified this issue to maintain compliance. This is the main reason why retailers in Cambodia are consistently attached to the local regulation and standards. Otherwise, they will face a big penalty. Last but not least, transparency with an average score of 3.3. Based on what we have found, most companies perform well at this, especially Toyota, which provide a transparent information about its products, services, and pricing. They publish annual reports, sustainability, and corporate governance policy to disclose relevant information about its performance. For pharmacies like UCare have good transparency when it comes to some of their product and pricing. However, based on our observation, we think this is insufficient because they didn't give enough information about the product origin, which were simply said to be from US and France. As a pharmacy, they should be openly sharing information about regulatory requirement, assessment, and any action taken to address compliance issue, but they haven't openly shared it yet. So we hope that our company can be open to the public about the product detail information, even if there is no monitoring from the government. This is all from our team.
Okay, what I noticed in your page, you have bullet points, and I have a few observations. Like business ethics and reasonable price. You know, I'm not sure whether reasonable price should be under that box. And also, you voice over a few things which are not very visible on your slide. Look, worldwide best practices, for example, if you look at the transparency, I see financial reporting. Is it the best practice, financial reporting? Yeah. In the same area, worldwide best practices, regulatory compliance part, you say legal compliance, industry standards, government oversight. I mean, these bullet points are more or less correct, but it is not explanatory. It doesn't show that you have done some research, what is going on in the world, to bring it here as a summary. I don't recall your previous pages. Do you have it here? If I see your other areas, like social or environment pages, you see, environment page, start with an environment page. Your industry observations are a little more explanatory. I also see now that your worldwide best practices also based on some bullet points that need some explanation. You go to social page. Again, your left side industry observation has a slight explanations, but at the minimum level, again, your worldwide best practices based on some bullet points. Now you go to governance page, and here everything is based on a couple of bullet points. So what you need to do, especially in your synthesis pages, you need to give meat to the bone. I don't know if that will make sense in English. So you have to elaborate your sentences on your slide that it is more self-explanatory. And once again, if you say only financial reporting as transparency best practices, they would say, really? I know your team knows more, both industry observations and worldwide best practices, but that information needs to be on these pages more clearly stated. Do you understand what I'm suggesting?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So as a teamwork, first of all, to make those 2 pages, you have to look at these pages anyways, right? Because upcoming lecture, upcoming 2 pages will be summary of these separate ESG pages, right? So while making these 2 summary synthesis pages, I want you to also update these ESG pages with slightly more explanations. That would be a better flow towards the final presentation. Besides that, I know from your voiceover, from your explanations, I know the team did the homework well, but that needs to be more reflected on these pages. So take it that feedback as it is, as it's a positive thing, but it can be slightly better, because if someone reads this document without your voice, they will not understand. And also try to avoid these very obvious best practices. Translate into specific examples. Like previous team, it was giving an example from Norway. And I asked them, wow, Norway is good, but let's look at the US, let's look at the Indonesia, the Thailand, and also let's look at best practice also in Cambodia. So revisit those pages based on my feedback. Thank you for your efforts so far, and also please go to a few malls, talk to their managers, shop owners, and try to understand what they think about ESG. Maybe you will hear different stories. That stories will help you develop your synthesis pages and your final recommendation. Once again, that feedback is valid for all teams. Great. Looking at the time, we are nearly on time. I see nice works are popping up. Interesting findings are popping up. So I congratulate all teams. And if we don't change anything, I'll see you next week, Thursday, for your synthesis pages. And then on the 30th of May, before exams, you'll make your final presentations, and we'll pick an event day somewhere maybe in July, so that you can present it to a larger audience, your families, your industry representatives. So far, I'm very happy. Things are developing as I planned. So I hope you also see your progress. Let's see what will happen until next week. Have a wonderful evening and keep up the good work. Synthesis, synthesis, synthesis.